Hi there, my name is Mr. Chaotic Nerd. In today's video we're going to be talking about how does the Division Dark Zones actually work. But before I get into the video, if you can please smash that like button, your support means the world to me. Also subscribe so you never miss out on any of my future videos. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, we will be getting into these dark zones by entering the airlocks, main gates, or hopping over the walls that are protecting these dark zones. Now we obviously saw the wall in these gameplays, but we didn't saw the either airlocks or main gates. Now airlocks was actually shown on one of the screenshots, so we can actually see a little bit of a perspective of how this will actually look. Now, as you probably know, there in the Manhattan there will be different factions that will be roaming around, especially in the dark zones. Some of them will stay stationary in one area, while others going to be strongholding certain areas, dominating it, and not letting any other faction really getting into their ways. Now, we know a couple of factions, so we'll be going through them. So, one of them we already know that are cleaners, that are basically the flamethrower guys that are roaming around the Manhattan, basically killing anybody that comes in their ways. But another one that were actually announced on the E3 gameplay was the Rikers. These are basically big douches who are violent and are taking over the east coast of Manhattan and are now trying to push into land to try and take it over. Now there is also non-factual factions, which once again sounds very complicated, but it's basically the guys, the individuals who are not into any sort of group. They're not in any of the groups, and they basically can travel alone or they can travel into groups of them, and some of them might be hostile to you while others non-hostile. It depends on which kind of group there are. Now talking about friendlies, there is actually a friendly faction just like the Division. There is a Joy Task Force, which basically they were having a control over Manhattan, but when the disease actually broke, they basically lost complete control over the Manhattan, and now the Division are actually working to bring and to help them remake the streets. And as you probably already guessed, the faction will be fighting each other. They can be hostile to animals, which is kind of weird, other factions, and also players. It doesn't seem like certain factions hate each other. It's either they hate everybody or no one. Now talking about all of these factions, will the EA will actually be better, or will be better different that in the other parts of the city? And the answer is probably will be yes, because they will be more harder to kill, they will be having better weapons and stuff like that, but they will not be better or will need not be more difficult to kill that in the other parts or PvE parts of the map, simply for the fact there will be players around, and that is adding a lot more difficulty for the actual gameplay. So I don't think that will be that much harder or that much difficult to kill that in other parts of the city. Now let's talk a little bit about the loot. And we actually saw a little bit of a gameplay of how we get the loot, but the loot is extremely rare. Especially in the dark zones, the loot is extremely rare. Although if you find it, it's probably going to be really good. Well, if in PvE, there will be a loot, but it won't be as legendary as in every single house. But anyways, the actual loot that you found in the dark zones will be contaminated and must be decontaminated by putting it or extracting it via the helicopter, or you cannot leave the dark zones, as the developer hint in the fact that might be uncontaminated weapons that can be found in these dark zones, which can be taken outside the dark zone without being extracted via the helicopter. Basically, you cannot take the weapons out from by entering or exiting the main gates, airlocks, or stuff like that. You will be needing to extracting them via the helicopter, or only via the helicopter, which adds up a lot of more difficulty for your extraction, because you cannot take it out by exiting the actual dark zone yourself. Now obviously when you die, you will be only losing the contaminated loot that was on you. You will not lose your weapons that are actually you equipped. For instance, you having an SMG and you're using it and you certainly getting dead by, for instance, another player. You will not lose your SMG, but you will lose any sort of loot that you gained in the actual Dark Zone, which adds a lot more difficulty and a lot more responsibility while you engaging other players or any other faction. As you probably already know, the Dark Zones are the PvP zones, and the PvP in them is mandatory. You cannot escape it. Now, you can be the lonely wolf and just explore, but you have obviously a very big risk of finding another group of hostile players that will basically kill you and take all of your loot that you had. There are also sections, or probably there will be sections of the Dark Zones that might just be PvE, although that is not confirmed. That is gonna be a really cool idea if they actually implement that in. Now, as you're probably already asking, what will be the consequences of actually killing other players in the Dark Zone? We obviously won't come with the clean hands after killing a dozen players. No, it's not true. You will be becoming a rogue agent. Basically, the rogue agents are the agents that are having sort of bounties on their head. If you kill them in the Dark Zone, you will not be rogue yourself. You will be rewarded with a probably X amount of XP or maybe even some sort of a loot. Now, how you can identify the rogue agents is by a skull with a red outline above their character. Also, you can identify them by actually pointing your crosshairs on there, and it will say whether it is non-hostile or hostile. We can actually see this in both of the gameplays and trailers that were shown to us in the E3. Now, also there will be obviously penalties for dying, obviously depending on your status. If you're rogue, your respawn time will get longer, your rank will get down. If you're not rogue, your skill lose rank, but if you're rogue, you will lose even more rank. Respawn times will become more and more lengthier if you just hop back into the fight after dying and die again. So basically you don't want to get into fight once again. It's not a death match, it is a survival situation. Now, one of the coolest things I saw in this post was that you will be losing rank when you actually die, which is pretty cool. It's a cool idea, don't get me wrong, but I don't know how they will implement that correctly into the game. To remove the rogue status, you will need to wait out the timer. Developer hints that you can actually hurt other people during this time without no implication, but if you kill somebody, the time will get longer. So the last thing is actually how do you exit from the Dark Zones, and it's really easy. It's basically exiting out via airlocks or the main gates. You cannot actually exit via the wall as it was shown on the gameplay demo, and basically that is pretty much it. You will obviously need to extract the loot via the helicopter before you actually go and do anything or actually exit the Dark Zone in itself. But anyways, if you did enjoy this video, I know it was really lengthy, I'm sorry for that. Once again, use the description to actually use the parts as you want. But anyways, if you did enjoy this video, again, please smash that like button. Your support means the world to me. Let's go and try and hit 3 likes on this video. I think we can do that. And also subscribe so you never miss out on any of my future The Division and other games videos. Anyways, I'm out. Peace.